We're here all together and we carry this love everywhere that we go. Oh, 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 yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Woo. One more time. We have come here to love one another. We have come here to let our love grow. We are family, we're here all together, and we carry this love everywhere that we go. And we carry this love, and we carry this love everywhere that we go. And we carry this love, and we carry this love everywhere that we go. Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
Thank you so much, Penelope. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. I'm Reverend Jean Bell. My pronouns are she and her, and I am so glad that you are with us today. If you're viewing on Facebook or YouTube Live, please like and share this broadcast so we can continue to spread the wonderful news of New Thought out into the world. If you're visiting for the first time, please see a welcome team member out in the hallway for a gift, especially for you. I am going to go through the affirmation. I'm going to read it all the way through, and then I'm going to invite you to say it with me. All right. I am the light of divine love, shining boldly through every circumstance. The radiance of spirit glows within me and expresses through all that I do. Even in the dark night of the world, my light cannot be diminished. It becomes brighter, stronger, and more courageous. My love dissolves fear. My faith transforms despair. And our unity reveals the presence of God everywhere, now and always. All right, let's say that together in one voice. I am the light of divine love, shining boldly through every circumstance. The radiance of spirit glows within me and expresses through all that I do. Even in the dark night of the world, my light cannot be diminished. It becomes brighter, stronger, and more courageous. My love dissolves fear. My faith transforms despair. And our unity reveals the presence of God everywhere, now and always. And so it is. Our speaker today is our beloved Reverend Susan Zollar. Let's give her a hand. So happy that you are here with us today. I have just one announcement, and that is our concert next Sunday, Oh Give Thanks. It's a gospel concert celebration on November the 2nd, and it will start at 3 p.m. Our guest singer will be Wanda Nero Butler, and she will lead not one, not two, but 4 choirs. The choirs of Spirit and Truth Sanctuary, the worship choir, Hillside International Truth Center, and the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Atlanta, and celebrating the holiday season in a spirit of gratitude. This inclusive gathering of choirs will blend their voices together in joy and thanksgiving. This concert is free, and love offerings are greatly appreciated. The concert will not be televised, so please be here in person. For those who cannot make it, we will have a recorded Thanksgiving message in its place. In addition, on that Sunday, we will have our regular potluck with SLCA providing a ham and turkey, and our community bringing the potluck sides as they always do. I just want to tell you all that I'm grateful that you are here and you belong.
With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. As I open and allow, I know right here and now I create a world where wonders never cease. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me.
One power, one source, one divine substance that is back of all creation. It is all things. It is the divine thing itself. And as I recognize that I am eternally one with it, I know this to be the truth for everyone that is within the sound of my voice. Filled to overflowing with this divine presence. We are all waves in this divine ocean of spirit, eternally connected and filled with all of its divine attributes. I know that the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta is a divine truth in the mind of God. I know that it is a healing balm for all those that enter its threshold. I recognize that spirit lives and moves and has its being in this entire community. Every member, every friend, every visitor, all the practitioners, ministers, and staff are filled with this divine presence. I know all who are viewing right here and right now are buoyed up in this spirit, for it is in and through and shows up as all things and all people. And with a heart filled with gratitude, I am simply in awe of its divine love. I release this prayer treatment into the universal law that always says yes. I know that my words are already an established fact in the mind of God. And if you agree with me, please join me now in saying, and so it is.
Every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. As I open and allow, I know right here and now I create a world where wonders never cease. With every prayer, I breathe the heart of God. I breathe the love of God through me. There's a new church on the horizon, made of light, not of stone, calling out to all creation, you are not alone. Lions and lambs, saints and sinners, best of friends, enemies, woman and man, losers and winners, they are all in you and me. We are one heart, looking for answers. We are one soul, finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. We are all a part one heart. Out in the cold, there are faces hidden by the wind and rain. Hold out your hand, someone will take it and bring you home again. Yeah, we are one heart looking for answers. We are one soul finding our way through the dark. One dream we share together. Yes, we are all of part. We are all apart. Say it with me now. We are all apart. We are all a part of one heart. And so it is. Yes, so it is. Good singing, everybody. Thank you so much.
You don't get music like that just at every church, do you? This is another hand. A glorious and gracious good afternoon to you. You know, had I only known the effect that attending my first service at what was then called the Atlanta Church of Religious Science, now SLCA, in 1985, I would have wanted to turn back the clock and gotten there sooner. I would have. You know, it was quite a service. Music played on a beautiful grand piano by a performer who had played in Carnegie Hall. There were heavy red drapes that came down, and one was pulled across backstage, and a man walked out and said, "Such is the nature of life that all it wants and all it asks is the opportunity to appear. You are that opportunity, and so am I." And that man was Kennedy Schultz, who was the founder of this church and the senior minister. And of course, we changed that name later on as we unified our organizations and had a more neutral sounding name than something that people might think was a cult. And, you know, Ken didn't just walk out, he kind of sashayed. He did. And that was much more his style. And style he had in abundance, just as much as he had an encyclopedic knowledge and understanding of the science of mind, or what we call religious science. And he was not one to suffer a fool gladly, let me put it politely. Ken's talks nonetheless filled the seats of the Richard H. Rich Auditorium in Woodruff Arts Center, and there were frequently people sitting in the aisles to hear him speak. You know, growing up in the Southern Baptist Church, I had never experienced anything remotely like what I did in one of these services. Religious science, science of, really, it did sound like a cult of some kind, yet I couldn't stop listening and continuously attending the services. Now, not one to hold back his thoughts, again, I'm being polite, Ken clearly didn't believe in the 50-foot tall, long, sandy-haired, bearded God in the sky I envisioned, as remember the earlier Southern Baptist Church reference, and he was at least concerned about hell or the devil. He eloquently and clearly taught religious science, we also know as science of mind, incisively and humorously in a way that got attention, attendance, and large contributions. There was more than enough financial support. He did all this while radically teaching a different view an impersonal view of God who wasn't personally involved in the details of our daily life. That in itself was shocking enough to cause all the Southern ladies, if they'd been there, to clutch their pearls. Now, AIDS was decimating the population at the time, especially of the gay men who were the majority of our congregation. AIDS was not understood, and there was no cure in sight. There were many people who were afraid, and there were many of the spiritually walking wounded who were hurting, truly afraid, and hearing that those infected deserve God's wrath because of their deviant behavior. Absolutely. There was deep need of love and acceptance. I can tell you that on the divine level, for those sick, those who loved them, and those who cared for them. Ken often spoke about the need for a greater God, a bigger image. But he spoke to everyone, not just the gay men in the congregation, even though he was a gay man. And here I am 40 years later, literally 40 years later, because of what I yearned for and learned from attending and listening to him. A talk he gave in 1997 was entitled First Impressions, and explains in different ways of our theme this month. That's why my talk title is entitled, Oh, Grow Up, Glow Up. Now, we are the manifestation of this great intelligence, absolutely. And it created the entire use, it created everything. We're part of it, but not its entirety, of this intelligent quantum field. And if you ever study quantum mechanics, you'll understand we're talking about that which created everything. And it was called God among many other names. Its characteristics are our characteristics. We have access to infinite potential and knowledge. Therefore, the great unknown is not unknown. Nothing is withheld from us. The wisdom we seek is not unavailable. So we have access to all the knowledge and everything we need to live successfully. Everything we need to transform our world is already given to us. We just have to accept it. It's already available. We learn how to access it. It's there waiting to be revealed and utilized. Again, everything we need is already available. So you and I have within us a creative intelligence and a vitality that knows beyond all the negativity and nonsense that we have been exposed to. This intelligence knows how to make everything new, every moment. Isn't that incredible? So our past is our past. It's truly over in this incredible quantum field. And we need to learn how to use it. And isn't that why we're here today? Yes, it is. To embody this knowledge and create better, create a greater, more expansive life. It's totally possible to be blessed, healed, and prospered in ways that are meaningful and are far beyond what we may have imagined in the past. And Ken spoke in that talk in 1997 of first impressions, of where we get the ideas that cause us to believe as we believe and do what we do. And they may originate externally, but for the most important part is how we absorb and embody these ideas and beliefs. These ideas are deeply held within us. We may not even be conscious that we have them. But the first impressions that he spoke of are not the impressions that happen when we meet someone, when we see them first time. The first impressions he's speaking of are within our own consciousness, in our own self. He used to say it like this, right here, head and heart, head and heart. That's the first impressions that count, because we absorb our own impressions and we embody them. And sometimes we don't even have an idea of what they are. I have found that to be in my own life. You know, it's about ourselves and the nature of life, absolutely. Why we're good or bad, how we do what we do, how the world works, and what is malleable and changeable, and what isn't. That was a huge thing to learn. This certainly includes what we call God, or divine mind, or intelligent mind, whatever name you want to call it. It includes that and what God thinks of us, as we may say, and what the world thinks of us. Do you ever think about what God thinks of us? I bet some of us had experience of growing up being told what God thinks of us. It may have included terms like miserable sinner, lower than whale poop, whatever. However, what Ken was speaking of was far greater and grander than this. Because we all have that concept of what divine mind is. And, what we think, and generally all the things that truly impact and governs the way you and I think. I mean, if you think someone is up there watching you with a flunky legion of angels taking notes on what you do with whom and what body parts, it makes a difference. You either don't care, or you may say you don't care, and you're secretly afraid that it really does matter, or maybe you have a bigger view of God. But simply put, you and I are what we are because of what we think and what we believe and also what we feel. Feelings count, they're very powerful. It sounds simple and it sounds important because what we become is within our own power. And that's what he taught that was so empowering to me. And, the skeptic was going, yeah, but you don't know about my life. I think a lot of people thought, but you don't know. And that was coming out of what? That fear we couldn't change things. That belief that, here I am. It's going to be the same, whatever. But what Ken taught is that we have the power to alter the character and the events of our lives. What we think with the one mind determines about the direction of our lives, I would say. We have an ability to create heaven or hell on this earth. Absolutely. Heaven or hell. And Jesus the Christ did say that the kingdom of heaven is within and it is at hand. So right there, depending on the thoughts and emotions and energies we put into the creative or divine mind, that's what happens in our lives. That's what comes to us. It may appear so different from what I didn't say that. I certainly didn't think that, but yet look, this is in my life. But it corresponds, trust me, it corresponds perfectly with the energy we're putting off. When we think, when we feel, when we believe, that goes into that great quantum field. And not only does it go in there, it is responded to as the circumstances of our life. They create according to what we put in, our words and thoughts and feelings, and there we are dealing with what we have created. Now, think of great spiritual truths throughout time. Ask and it is given. Knock and the door shall be open. As one thinks, so it is. Those were not just happenstance put in there and it doesn't really count. They were very, very important. Because the master teacher, Jesus, taught us to pray believing. And in the Bible, Mark 11:24, he said this, and I quote, "Believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." I'm going to say that again. Believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. So you pray about something you want to experience, and then you sit around thinking all the reasons it can't happen. Is it any wonder that a prayer this big is outweighed by negative thoughts this big? We're creating. There's no God out there judging us saying, you can have this, but you can't have that, and you deserve it, but you don't. No, that's not so. It is impersonal. It is always responding, and it is always creating. If you change your mind right now about something, I don't mean just say you change your mind, but you really change your mind. Divine mind, that quantum field, begins immediately creating. And of course, we can say we change our mind, but how many times do we change it back and forth and back and forth? And we wonder why what we want doesn't show up. Rather than passively, unconsciously absorbing and accepting ideas and other people's beliefs that we don't really feel, you and I can change the contents of our thoughts, and we can create a new reality for ourselves. I've been reading on quantum mechanics, and it talks about how the ideas and beliefs we have, and they talk about the intricacies of it. And if you don't think quantum mechanics is really, really strange, you haven't read it, is all I can say. Because it says the decisions we make aren't even from our mind. They have never been able, the scientists have never been able to pinpoint a part of the brain that makes decisions. You know, we can consciously and deliberately direct our thoughts and feelings. Where do your feelings come from? Your thoughts, your beliefs. Have you ever had something happen and all of a sudden, without any warning, all of a sudden you were blushing beet red? Well, someone as white as I do does certainly look like the bulb of thermometer when that happens, but it's because of feelings I may have that I don't even realize. You know, what seems unchangeable is changeable, absolutely, even though it may take time and effort. However, there are people who change their mind and they definitely accept that change. They don't go back, and things happen for them in a very short period of time. But if we go on thinking what we've always been thinking and doing what we've always been doing, why are we surprised, never me of course, when we get the same things we've been getting all along? Did you ever have that happen? Not me, yes. Yes, it was me. I'm sure some of you may have parallel experience. You know, there is no limit placed upon the good that we can receive in our life. Yet, as Ken described it, so many people go to this ocean of intelligence, this quantum field, with a thimble instead of a bucket or a huge, huge container. Maybe we think we don't deserve it. And if we do, what do you think that the quantum field sends back to us? You don't deserve it. You can't have it. Here you go. It doesn't care. It's not judging. It never says, now, Susan, you did not mean that. Come on, think a greater thought. That's up to me to realize. You know, let's enlarge our quality of thought and enlarge our beliefs and the quality of our lives. Because learning what we believe, even it's our subconscious, or we don't even realize we've absorbed it. That's part of growing up spiritually. And that's why if we want to glow up, which means change our lives for the much greater, we have to grow up spiritually. What we do with what we discover is up to us. It's our choice. No one's up there saying, I'm going to stick a pitchfork in you if you don't believe this. You know, you're going to roast without basting if you don't do this certain thing or pray this certain way or hang with these certain people. What is different in religious science, one of the many things, is that there are no victims. There are no victims. And you may say, but wait, I never asked for this particular thing or that particular thing to happen. No, but on some level, we must have been putting out that energy because we're vast transmitters of energy, or it wouldn't have come to us. People say, what about little children? You know, that child was born with. Little children absorb very greatly what's around them, and I think particularly their primary caregivers. So when we see a child with something going on, it's not up to judge us or think what they have been exposed to, but just to know something greater about them. You know, the first step on all this is realizing what's in our mind, our total mind, and then deciding what to do with it. And you may say, I don't know how to do that. Well, neither did I, but I prayed about it, or what we call affirmative prayer or treatment. And let me tell you, it got shown to me in spades. It was not pretty. I didn't like it. And I didn't particularly want to change. I just wanted to have a better life. But if I didn't change, I wasn't going to have a better life. You know, Ken talked about people who said their lives don't seem to be going anywhere. And he said his life at different times seemed like it was just going around in circles and circles and circles, and with the same old stuff. That is, it wasn't going anywhere until he got a greater idea of God and his place in this world. When he did this, he stopped drinking. Absolutely, he stopped drinking. Apparently, he had done quite a lot of that. And he started focusing on his spiritual education through the New York Church of Religious Science, as it was called back then. He learned of science of mind, as taught by Raymond Charles Barker. You may not know the name Raymond Charles Barker, but he was a student of Ernest Holmes, who founded our teaching. And he was coming straight from the source. And Ken was an excellent student. He got it. You know, what had seemed impossible to him before became possible, because it wasn't easy, but it became possible. Do you have anything you think of in your life as impossible? Do you have anything you think is unchangeable? Well, if you do, you've just made a God of it, because the only thing unchanging is the nature of reality, that which we call God or divine mind. You know, believe and have faith that it is so, and it becomes so. And it becomes so directly proportional to the amount of stuff we have around that. You know, if there's something that you say, oh man, that's a great idea, I really like that, accept it. It happens much more easily than those parts of our mind that pop up and say, oh no, that can't happen. Here's all the reasons. Look who you've been, look what you've done, look who you've associated with. And I know more than a few people that hear that quite a lot. And you know, it made it possible for Ken to release his addiction. And he spoke that day about first impressions. And he revealed that 30 years ago, to the day he was speaking, on the 16th of February, 1967, he had stopped drinking. 30 seconds before he made that decision, he said he never believed it was possible. 30 seconds after he made that decision, he felt in his heart that it was done. Absolutely, that it was totally possible. And he remained sober for the rest of his life. I don't know the temptations he had. I don't know his thought process, but he did it. That's not always an easy thing to do. Maybe some of you have had that experience or dealt with people who have had that experience. That is a mighty testament in his life to what he taught. You know, He grew up that day and did what we call glow up over time. He grew up spiritually, realized a greater truth and a greater possibility for himself, and he accepted it into his being on a cellular level. And his life changed. I don't know if it was instantly or if it took time. These things quite often take some time, but not always. And the character and quality of his life transformed. He left New York. He moved to Atlanta. He continued study science of mind, and eventually he studied ARS, Atlanta Church of Religious Science. And later he became so well known and so highly thought of that he became the president of the organization that we're a part of today, although it joined the two parts that had been separate. Now, he influenced countless numbers of ministers and the course of sinners that were all over, because he didn't mince words. And he also taught a lot of ministers and practitioners. His effect was so large, and it continues to this day, evidenced by yours truly up here 40 years later. And that is no joke, 40 years later. And ACRS was the forerunner of what you are experiencing right here, right now. You know? And I hear some of his same words in my head so often. And you've heard some of his very same words in the talk today I'm giving because I made sure to put them in there. Now, to glow up, our theme this month, means to really grow up spiritually, to have a transformation. And we have to do that if we want to glow up. If not, we're going to be doing same old, and continuing to get the exact results we have. And what that is releasing any ideas and actions that don't serve us. We have to stop being victims of anything. I don't know about you, but I was brought up to be a victim. My mother modeled it wonderfully. She did. That's all she do. And, you know, I had a lot of guilt because I was the cause of a lot of her problems, she said. I don't have any problems that you and your sister, I can't do anything about you. Can you imagine the impression that made on me? And I lived from that impression quite a lot. You know, we have to choose life-affirming beliefs. Absolutely. We choose it, we choose the thoughts, and then they become the beliefs as we incorporate them more and more. And if you don't think this happens, just try changing one belief and work on it until finally, all of a sudden, you believe it is cellularly within you. You know, and your life changes when you do that. And it may not be always easy, but it does become possible. I'm here to tell you, I was involved in a serious eating disorder that I left behind a long time ago from coming to this church and learning the science of mind and applying it. If we don't apply it, it's just another interesting philosophy. You get me? And I know a lot of times I came, and it was just really interesting, but I didn't really want to grow up or glow up well, I wanted to glow up, but I didn't want to grow up. I just, you know, can't be too thin, have too many silk blouses, or too blonde. Well, you can be, and that can actually be dangerous. But what I'm saying is, you know, we have to accept new beliefs, and our lives change. We can choose to think that doing so is easier than it's going to be a lot of hard work. How many of y'all have ever heard that? It's going to be a lot of work to do this? And you know what the biblical phrase is? This is my favorite. Yea and verily, which means, oh, yes, yes, times 100. You know, yea and verily. We can say that changing our beliefs is easier than we've ever thought, that changing our lives and changing the depth of our understanding comes to us naturally from the one mind, because we have access to that one mind. We have access to all knowledge, and we have access within us, even if we don't know how, to somehow incorporate that knowledge into our lives. You know, by myself, I can do nothing, it is written. The God within me does it all. By myself, I can do nothing, but the God within could do everything. So, what if you're worried about what other people think? I know some people used to sneak in the back door at the last minute of this church. They did not want anybody seeing coming to that weird church. And they didn't want to tell anybody until if they incorporated it, suddenly things got better. You know, we don't have to worry about our standing in other people's eyes. You know, where we stand does not make me important or well respected in the eyes of the world or in the mind of God. God's impersonal. If you want to go to heck in a handbasket, okay. If you want to be a person who transforms and uplifts the world, okay. It's even bigger than okay, and so it is. So, you know, standing on a principle that does not enrich life is just standing. Standing on a principle or belief that does not enrich life is just standing. And when you just stand, you're not moving very far, are you? Unless you wiggle around some, you're not. Choosing new principles that enlarge and enrich our lives through love, faith, and better ideas. Well, you know, the world does value people who are producing. Where they're going is appreciated, and what they do when they get there is noticed and applauded. You know, it's what we actually do with our life, not what we say we're going to. How many of us have ever said what we're going to do and what we're going to be, and it never happened? Okay, 2 of us. I'll talk to the rest of you afterwards. You know, God is impersonal. It is more vast than anything I think we can imagine. It created all that is. Absolutely. It's not interested in what you and I are doing or what we think about and what we have concluded about life. It is truly impersonal. Spirit is living life through us. And as we create and go about, this is Spirit creating. You may be thinking, well, Spirit's not a very good creator as I look at my life, but no, Spirit is an excellent creator. It's us who have to direct that energy to get the results that we're interested in. You know, it's important to realize what we really want in life. A lot of times what we really want is not what we think we want. You know, the world will support us no matter what. It's going to be there. Spirit's going to support us. But it also will support us in living beautifully, in changing our lives to be something absolutely wonderful. And you know, all those people we learned about throughout history, maybe through some kind of religious history, the martyrs and the saints. Well, do you believe really that fasting and beating yourself with a whip and putting on a horsehair shirt after that is going to endear you to the divine? People believed that, and they did it. They did it quite a lot and intently. You know, you think God is up there going, oh, look, that poor thing is starving itself to death. Darn. No. It's a quantum field that's responding. If you can, realize what your understanding of God is and see if you can have a greater God, as Ken said. Because it matters what we believe. You know, burning at the stake, oh my. Can you understand? That was just, people thought they were doing God's will. We're going to burn you. Well, even that, beyond that is the idea of eternally roasting without basting in subterranean earth. It sounds a lot worse. It does. You know, some of us still believe that on some level. Once in a while, I'll catch myself having an old thought. And if it's not realized, we may believe we have to suffer to be good in the eyes of God. The eyes of God is energy. This world is an energetic world. You and I are energetic beings. So, this brings home the point that Ken made of getting to a greater God, because today we understand science and math more. We understand the true nature of spirituality more, if we want to. Through science and math, I'm sadly to say to some of you, the universe has revealed itself in ways that were previously unthought. It does seem like God speaks math and science, but there's a way to understand everything, even if it's not through math and science. But also, Spirit reveals itself through intuition, meditation, prayer, visioning, something for everyone. Now, some people may still want to embrace a vengeful, punishing God, but I think nobody in their right mind would let the God of the Old Testament babysit their children. Why? Go look at the Old Testament and see what happened. Are we going to slay all the firstborn? Is God going to tell you to slice the head off your child with a sword? That seems vengeful, and it came from the beliefs of the time. We don't believe that anymore. We're limited today only by our lack of imagination and our foresight. God's not limited. Everything is possible. Who would have believed 200 years ago the leaps in knowledge that we have achieved in the last 200 years? Oh my gosh, self-driving cars, growing replacement body parts. I just read that there are places where they're experimenting with growing teeth that can be placed in humans if they need to lose one, or they do lose one. I would have never even thought of that. Joint replacements, disease cures, finding lost cities in the desert using instruments, and really, drones. You can go up and just look all around, kind of like God looking down from heaven, if we believe that view. What do we know is going to unfold next? We can have some ideas. I don't really know, but I tell you one thing, I can't wait to see what unfolds, because it is going to be progress. And of all the things we see in the world today, let us hold true to what we believe, and let each of us create what we want to have happen. We were put here to express God through ourselves, not to suffer and do without. So peace is possible, clean air, clean water, enough food for all that is absolutely possible. Can you see why I love learning from Ken? I wish I could dial back the days sometime and just listen to him again. He wasn't sweet, he wasn't always kind, but he was brilliant, and I am so grateful for this. So through Science of Mind, I've grown up a lot, and I do believe I'm glowing up a lot more, and so are you. But if you're not, think about taking the classes here. Think about attending our workshops. So many of them are online with Zoom, and they're free. Talk to the ministers and practitioners. This is why I've been coming here for 40 years. So let each of us upgrade our consciousness. Absolutely. Feed it and grow it well. And as each of us grow up, we'll glow up, absolutely. And we're transforming the world as we know it, right here and right now. In wonderful ways, I think about Wicked, and his Elphaba sings, Unlimited. And if you know who Elphaba is, you can see why she was told unlimited. I'm unlimited. Say that to yourself if you can. Wake up in the morning and say, I can't wait to see what wonderful things happens today. But thus ends the lesson. You're unlimited, I'm unlimited. And so I say to Ken, my profound thanks and love. Namaste, aloha, blessed be, shalom, and so it is. Thank you. It's now time for us to have an opportunity to give back to this center that gives us so much. And I want to remind each of us that we do not receive funds from our parent organization. We're entirely self-supporting. It is spiritually correct to give to that which feeds you spiritually. And whatever you can give, if it's not money, may it be service, may it be generosity, may it be kindness. We invite you to do so. So would you say the offering affirmation with me, please? I live in a universe of abundance as I freely and joyfully give. I join with the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me abundantly, and so it is.
And so it is. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
You didn't give by check or money today. No, there are many ways to give. You can give online. You can text. You can go on our webpage and see all the ways to give. We're so grateful for you and what you bring to us. So let us extend our hands knowing that everything is energy. And let us bless that which we have been given today, knowing that it's going to be pressed down and overflowing, enabling us to do our great mission of reaching out and teaching the world of the truth, the spiritual truths of this universe, in helping us to create a world that truly does work for everyone, brings love, peace, and prosperity to all. In gratitude for each hand that is given and will give in the future and has given already, I simply say thank you, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Susan. I invite our practitioners to come forward. Our practitioners are going to love on us and love us up. If there's a practitioner in the house that is available today, you come on up and we'll close out with our closing song. There we go. On your feet. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. Yeah. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. Yes, we do. We see a world that works for everyone. We see a world that works for everyone. Everyone. Thanks, everybody. See you downstairs.